A stunning turnaround in 30 hours. Was it game plan? Was it effort? Was it clear mind thinking? Next on Locked on Jazz. Bum 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 bum.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, I'm David Locke. Welcome to Locked on Jazz, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. How are you? As I mentioned, I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps, as well as on YouTube. And to the everydayers, you are the best. Today's show is brought to you in part by FanDuel. FanDuel customers, new customers, bet $5. If your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel to get started. Today's show, we will wrap with late game watch. Why did my graphics not come in like they're supposed to? We'll finish with late game watch. We will talk about two youngsters that had particularly good games yesterday. And we will start it off, though, with the incredible 30-hour turnaround that was the Utah Jazz getting blasted by the Houston Rockets, and then really kind of controlling the Houston Rockets. Won by 20. We're up by 21 at one point. Let go of the rope at the end of the third. In a tussle down the stretch, made the plays and had the wiggle room to do it. All right. There's a lot of different things here. And I honestly am not entirely sure. Now that I've looked at the numbers, rewatched some of the game, it's always great to do postcast and then come back and spend a few more hours working and then do this. Leaving the arena last night, my thought was that the Jazz had followed the plot, that they had a game plan, they had executed it, they had done it very, very well. They exposed some things on the Rockets at a level that they did much better than the game before. Namely, who was defending him, what matchups, how to deal with it, expose Reed Sheppard, Alperen Sengun. Okay, that was that. When I asked Kyle Filipowski post-game what was the plot, he basically said we played harder than we did the other night. That we played with more force, ferocity than we did the other night. And then there's this awful third part that really might be the story, is that we made shots. And the night before, we missed a bunch of shots early, and we missed layups, and it's a shot-making league. So let me walk you through the three different thoughts there, and then you can decide. So the first one is that the Jazz game plan was to do a much better job in the half court to slow down a tiny bit and find Reed Sheppard, find Alperen Sengun, get Alperen Sengun guarding Lowry, or the guards in space, get Reed Sheppard to guard Lowry marking on a switch in the post, take advantage of their switches. And watching the game, it did feel as though the Jazz were able to take advantage of those switches, make those plays, do those things. And really, Ron Boone had a fabulous broadcast last night, kept continually mentioning the pace and speed by which we were getting the offense. Now that might fall in just to the pure effort part of things. Because it did feel as though the Jazz got into possessions much, much faster. Now, the data, which is going to screw up all of these stories tonight, this is what's going to be interesting, so you can decide. The data is that the Jazz possessions were 13.8 seconds long, 13.9 seconds long in the first game, and 13.6 seconds long in the second game. So a little difference, but maybe not a huge. We also just didn't allow steals. So is that the Rockets just didn't have quite the same force on a back-to-back? The Rockets were actually playing their first back-to-back of the season, which is incredible, 21 games in. And the Rockets went from having 14 steals to having 6 steals. So that's just us taking care of the ball better, or the Rockets didn't have quite the same force? I don't know the answer. There was a calmness and an attention and a mindfulness and thinking clearly from Keonte George last night. Okay, the night before, Keonte completely came undone. When you literally are punching a pass in the backcourt and it turns into a turnover, you have lost your bearings. Yesterday, the Jazz dictated, where the day before, the Rockets knocked the Jazz off their game. That might just be pure effort. The night before, or the day before, the Rockets didn't have an unbelievable offensive rebounding game. They had 37%. And last night, they only had 29%. Okay, that's effort. That's Kyle Filipowski talking about the effort. That's a great job by the Jazz on the boards, because the Rockets need the boards. It's also Steven Adams not playing. It might be Kevin Love playing, right? One of our best rebounders played, one of their best didn't, and we flipped it. Here's some of the wackiness, okay? Here's the wackiness. There's a statistic called QSQ. And that statistic is quantified shot quality. And that says if the Jazz had shot average on all of their shots, based on where they took them, based on where the defense is, they would have shot last night 54.3%. And if you believe QSQ, the night before, the Jazz got much better shots. The night before, the Jazz took would have shot 56.4, and they didn't. They shot 49.4% effective field goal percentage. They were terrible. And last night, they shot 58%. They were 4 percentage points better. This could be literally as simple as within 30 hours making shots versus missing shots. Now, play with force, dictate the game, the shots feel better. But last night, the Jazz took 23 shots at the rim, and the night before, the Jazz actually took 27 shots at the rim. Last night, the Jazz did get more corner threes. They got 11, whereas the night before, they got 6. Those are the shots you want. So it's a little bit of an interesting one there that, like, literally, and the pretty much same amount of threes, same amount of paint shots, same amount of mid-range shots. So one of the things, the game plan was, well, we'll drive it. We'll find the right matchups. If you dig into the numbers, we drove it the exact same amount of times with the exact same efficiency. What we did better was our isolation offense, where we got one-on-one matchups and exposed them. And that might be going after Sengun and going after Shepherd instead of going after Thompson, except for if you look at the numbers, that's not totally true. We went after Shepherd better, with better guys and more effectively. In the first game, Reed Shepherd got caught in isolation 4 times. We scored 0 points. Last night, they got Reed Shepherd caught in isolation 6 times, and rather than 0 points, I think we got 10 points. It's a big difference, right? So literally getting Reed Shepherd in isolation in the first matchup 4 times, got 0 points this time, 5 times, and got 10 points. That makes a difference. Similar, probably some of these are the same, getting Reed Shepherd in drives. The first night, we got him on drives 9 times, and we just didn't score. We scored 5 points. Last night, we got him caught in 8 drives. We scored 13 points. Some of those are probably the same. With Sengun, it wasn't as dramatic. We actually got him caught in drives 4 times and 6 the time before, and not a big difference. We just made him play defense more. And the fact of the matter is that their drop coverage in pick and roll, we couldn't do anything with either night. In fact, last night, we really had a miserable pick and roll night. So the numbers would say, yeah, we got Reed Shepherd a little bit more, but frankly, we just made shots. And that changed the tempo and the energy and the feeling of the game. And we played faster and we kept that momentum. And the night before, we didn't make shots. That's what the numbers would say. The eyeballs said the Jazz played with a focus and approach and trying to get certain guys involved. And they did it. And they can't. And then, and Ron Boone and Kyle Filipowski would tell you the Jazz came with a tempo and a pace and an energy that was different. So you decide. Eyeballs, experts, numbers. Regardless of any of those three, that was an awesome performance. That's the best performance of the year. That was a collective effort. That was guys playing as well as they could against a really good team who tried to take the easy route, I think, and the Jazz blasted them and were able to hold them off. The Jazz dictated the majority of that game. They didn't let Houston do any of the things Houston does. Houston didn't rebound. Houston didn't go on runs. Houston didn't get them messed up on spacing. The Jazz, except for a few Allen Thompson baseline jams, which are really interesting plays. But the Jazz really had a game plan and a focus. And I think we're able to exploit Reed Shepherd and Alperen Sengun enough to get that momentum and get that plot going and get things going. Because you want no part of Allen Thompson. I'll tell you about that in a second. But two youngsters last night were just fabulous. And they'll be our focus when we come back or when we continue on Locked On Jazz. Today's edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel's the official sportsbook of Locked On, and FanDuel gives you the official betting of the NFL right now. Let's go with it. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting in real time with FanDuel. You can place bets on the action, unfolds every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight, every moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, momentum flips. After a turnover, FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update, a guy heats up, and you can bet next touchdown scores, drives, results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked in on every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, so you can as well. Today's show is also brought to you by Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also located in Logan and in Linden. The Murdochs bring you over 90 years of Utah excellence, being a part of the community. And the Hyundai car, they're just great. I'm driving the Santa Fe Hybrid right now. Love it. Absolutely fabulous. For the dollar figure, the bells, the whistles, the safety features, I cannot imagine getting better bang for your buck. Plus, you fill up the tank and it's got like 550 miles on it in a tank because it's hybrid. It's just outstanding. We've done the Ioniq 5 and the Ioniq 6 in the house as well, which are the electric cars. And there's the Sonata and the Elantra for the sedans. The Palisade is the other big SUV, just terrific. And the Kona and the Tucson zip you around town. Go check it out at Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, or in Logan and Linden. If you're going to stop by, feel free to email me first and get your VIP treatment that you deserve from Murdoch Hyundai as a Locked On everydayer. Thank you so much for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network, and thank you for making Locked On Jazz your first listen. This is crazy. According to the site Second Spectrum, over the last 2 games, Allen Thompson guarded Keonte George for 45 matchups, whatever they determine as a matchup. And in those 45 matchups, Keonte took 3 shots and did not score. Allen Thompson is a beast. He really might be the best defensive player in the game. Allen Thompson in the last 2 games, Keonte got 6 points. In 45 matchups against Amen Thompson, Keonte scored 3 points on free throws. In 18 matchups, Lauri Markkanen, I'm trying to do the math here because they do this by 100. Lauri Markkanen scored 2 points. Yeah, 2 points. Ace Bailey had 14 matchups on Amen Thompson and scored 0 points. Isaiah Collier had 10 matchups against Amen Thompson, scored 3 points. I think they dropped off him for 3. And Walter Clayton had 10 matchups against Amen Thompson and scored 0 points. I mean, the dude is sick. If I have my numbers right, in about 90 possessions of matchups, whatever they determine as a matchup, I don't quite know that, we scored 8 points on Amen Thompson. Is that wild? So that is why you had to get off of Amen Thompson. All right. To that point, Kyle Filipowski, and I don't know if I can do this by game, in the last 2 games. Oh, I can. All right. Kyle Filipowski last night against Kevin Durant was able to hold his own. And that, to me, is a massively important moment for Kyle. Because Kyle Filipowski, the question on him is going to be whether or not he can stay on the floor in enough possessions against when he's being exposed defensively. And in last night's game, he had 22 matchups against Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant scored 9 points. That's pretty great. The night before was 3 points in 3 matchups. But last night, the Jazz played Kyle and let him. And they shot at Kyle Filipowski last night and went after him, and he was able to hold his own. And that is a massive breakthrough. He had 14 matchups against Alperen Sengun, and Alperen Sengun scored 2 points. That was the best defensive game of Kyle Filipowski's career. Go back to what Will Hardy said about players. They've got to get to a point where their weaknesses are such that their strengths can show. You've got to get to a point where you're playing well enough so that you're not a liability on one end of the floor or the other, so much so that the rest of the team can't function. And Kyle last night defensively was just part of the game plan. And the Rockets played a 2-man game on the right side of the floor time and time again in the fourth quarter with Sengun and Durant to get Filipowski involved, and he handled it fabulously. These are major moments. Now, quicker, speedier, maybe that's not a matchup. But if you can find the matchups where Kyle can do it, then Kyle becomes very good. And Kyle was cool afterwards, talking about that Durant, as you'd suspect, was his favorite player as a kid. So he's going up against his idol, getting to guard him, and it was really cool, and he did a great job. And he was really proud of himself, and I thought that was awesome. Kyle had 12.7 rebounds, 3 assists last night. These are all the things you know he can do. The offensive game, he's hit 2 of 5 threes, which is terrific. He's still got to get better at finishing at the rim. Fine. These are all developmental things that, frankly, I always say this, year 1 to year 2, you go try the same things again and they don't work, and then you adjust. He's adjusting, but defensively he worked incredibly hard in the offseason to work on his lateral quickness, and he worked on it and it showed last night. He got the moments that we keep seeing for Keonte where all the hard work's paying off. Flip got them last night. Flip got the moments last night where he really got to see, oh, wait, if I work hard and improve this, it gives me dividends. And this is what the dividends are, is that I just guarded Alperen Sengun and I just guarded Kevin Durant in space on the right side of the floor where their entire game plan was come get me. And I held up and we won. It's a big moment for Kyle Filipowski. And it's a big moment for the Jazz if Kyle can do that. All right. If he's got a guard, somebody who's super quick out there, it's not a great matchup. This is a team that doesn't really have a point guard. So there's a lot of reasons why this is a right matchup. But find the matchups where it works. I'm not sure that Kyle defensively is going to become an 82 game player. He can't become a 0 game player. Right? There are certain matchups that are going to be particularly difficult to him. If we're playing Kyrie Irving and they're putting Kyle Filipowski in space, okay, there's constitutional amendments against that. But if it's a different style team like the Houston Rockets, then maybe he's going to be all right. And I begin to wonder whether or not the answer on Shea, by the way, is just to start guarding with 7-footers. I'm waiting to see if that's going to be the next round because right now Shea is breaking the game. Playing Denver, maybe Kyle Filipowski can play because you're going up against Jokic and Murray. And it's not as shifty and some other things. So then you can use him. But last night was massive because there was a circumstance where Kyle held his own defensively and was isolated and did a great job. That was the best game of Walt Clayton Jr.'s career. Walter Clayton Jr. was really in the fog. And there is really something to the rookie fog. And what's interesting about the rookie fog, and Reed Sheppard was in it for the entire season last year for the Houston Rockets, is what happens when you get in the rookie fog is actually the things you're good at you don't do anymore. Bryce Sensabaugh, his rookie year with the Jazz was in the rookie fog. What's so weird about the rookie fog is that you're just literally forget all the things you're good at because everything's happening to you. It's such a mystery. You're out of sorts. You're not playing your normal minutes. You're not getting enough time on the floor to be able to help yourself. Then you start to struggle. Then you just don't play. Then you end up losing all your confidence. Then Walt Clayton can make basic passes, hit shots, fundamentally run a team. He wasn't doing any of those things. And then he kind of made some plays the other night. And then the second quarter yesterday, he came with a force and an aggressiveness and an attack and a willingness to pull for the shot. He had 8 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. And that second quarter, he was the game changer. He and Flip, actually both. But really give Walt the game changer on that game. The Jazz, at the end of one, I think are down 1 or 2. And then Walt comes out to open the second quarter, and he's the one who pushes the Jazz to a fabulous second quarter, outscoring them 37-25. And he plays the entire quarter, and he has 5 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and is plus 12. He's the only guy who played the entire quarter. Now, again, the Rockets, just so we're being fair, different teams. The Rockets, who the night before did not look like they had any flaws, do have a point guard issue. And so maybe it's a good matchup for Walt Clayton, and maybe that's a good matchup for Kyle Filipowski. Great. Then they both stepped up and took advantage of the opportunity to do those things, and they were both terrific. And really, both of those are the best games to do. And now it's going to be fun to watch. Brooklyn's a matchup where both of them should be the better player in their matchups, and then they go to New York, and it'll be very different. And then Oklahoma City on Friday will be a horror show. But this is the NBA. They get to rest on their laurels for like today. And then we go to the next one, but they should be good against Brooklyn and come in with confidence. It should be exciting to see. This is what the season's about. The season has been a raging success to this point. Late game watch. Put in a bunch of weekend watches. Haven't done this week's watches, so these will be from Saturday and Sunday, but there's some interesting takeaways next on Locked On Jazz. Today's edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA and get $50 instantly when you play. So Prize Picks is fun because the holiday season has so many sports for you. Bowl games, big basketball, playoff pushes, all at once. So you get to make some choices every day. One of the most fun places to do it. Make the right call with Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. You pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Prize Picks has added an extra layer of excitement to the holiday sports season for you by letting you create lineups in less than a minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth and easy. You can choose from a huge range of unique stats And the early payout feature is a great bonus. When your lineup starts strong, you may get the option to cash out early. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups for you when you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Late game watch is when I watch the final 9 minutes of every game that is close in the NBA. So let's run through 3 of them from this weekend that I thought were interesting. Of course, I don't have any of my reading glasses here, so this will be interesting. Start with Phoenix versus Oklahoma City. This was Friday night. These were all cup games. I will say this. Oklahoma City's commentators, who are really good, Fish and Cage, complaining about calls is pretty thick. I mean, seriously, you guys foul every single freaking play. And then you're complaining about how hard it is to play through the officials. The radio guy does it too. It's miserable. There's some interesting things on this one. The Dillon Brooks I'm a superstar thing is hard to watch. And I wonder what it's like for Phoenix's teammates. I feel like this wears thin at some point this season. He's just has an elevated value of himself beyond what seems natural to where he should be getting shots. He took 26 shots last night against the Lakers. He scored 33 points, so it seems fine, I guess. But Devin Booker, who actually I think might got hurt last night, maybe that's why. But the late game Dillon Brooks experience is hard for me to watch. Yeah, right groin injury on Devin Booker last night. So that's not great. Boy, we got a problem in the league. We got a massive problem. I don't have to talk about this week. Everyone wants to have load management, this and that. We have a super huge problem in this league. I am not entirely sure the game is not too difficult to play. And I don't have an answer for it. OKC closed with Shea Dort, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren. I think Jalen Williams of Oklahoma City should be a player that Kyle Filipowski watches. Now, Kyle's actually shorter. I know Kyle's 7 feet and Jalen Williams 6'9", but Kyle's actually shorter than he is. His the standing reach of Kyle's only 8'11", and Jalen Williams' standing reach is bigger and longer. And so it's actually, he's got to figure out, but Jalen Williams with zero verticality is an impactful defensive player for Oklahoma City. And if Kyle can figure out how to play the way Jalen Williams does with zero verticality and be able to hold position, like Kyle's tried it. Like I've watched Kyle try it. He doesn't know how to take charges because when you're the best player on the team, you don't take charges. And so Jalen Williams, who's always been a little bit more of a complimentary player, is kind of figuring out how to do that. Now they're way better defensively when Isaiah Hartenstein or Chet Holmgren's on the floor, but Jalen Williams holds his own just fine. And then from an offensive standpoint, Kyle's more talented than he is, has more ball skills and things like that. But I do think that's an interesting match. Oklahoma City's started to shake them things up. They're starting Shea in the corner on some possessions, which they didn't used to do. Oklahoma City wins this game late. Williams, Caruso, Jalen Williams, Caruso, Case and Wallace, and Shea all get steals in the final 7 minutes. Just incredible. Okay. Denver, San Antonio. Few things. Denver was really sluggish in this game. Actually, disturbingly sluggish in this game, I would say. And it was kind of an interesting thing. I haven't seen them look that way. They just didn't make plays. They were a little loose in the way I thought they were playing. It wasn't an impressive performance, shall we say, by them. San Antonio ran a play in this game that was super impressive. I loved it. I don't know how you guard it. I'm going to pull it. And then the more I watched it and I tweeted about it, and then had some people inform me that like, oh, well, that's actually Will Hardy's play, which was funny. No wonder I like it. And not only is it Will Hardy's play, but there's actually a team in the league that runs a similar play and calls it Hardy. So let me show it to you on YouTube. And for those of you on audio, I think I will make this doable. So San Antonio has the ball. Jeremy Sohan has it at the top of the key. And coming around for the ball is Dylan Harper. At this point, Jeremy Sohan goes to set Jamal Murray, a pick on Jamal Murray. Because Jonas Valanciunas is in the game, Denver is not, this is pretty complicated. Denver is not wanting to switch because Valanciunas can't switch onto the ball. So Murray's got to fight through the pick. At the exact same time that this is happening, Devin Vassell runs behind Jamal Murray. Well, if Devin Vassell runs off Jamal Murray, he's a small, so then that's a small pick and roll, which means you're switching. So Jamal Murray at the exact same time is fighting through a pick in which he's not switching. And then the guy runs behind him. So at that exact same moment, he is switching, but to a different guy. And Peyton Watson, who's Devin Vassell's man, actually should be switching on to Dylan Harper. I think there's zero chance that that can be done correctly by Jamal Murray. So what happens is Devin Vassell's wide open. Cam Johnson has to rotate. They rotate to the corner, and Harrison Barnes hits the three. For those of you on YouTube, I'm going to play it one more time just so you can see what I'm talking about. Sohan gives the ball to Harper. At that moment, Sohan sets the pick, and you can see Vassell runs right underneath Jeremy Sohan at that exact minute. At that minute, Jamal Murray is supposed to be doing two things at once. One is not switching, and the other is switching. And he doesn't do it. He stays with his guy. He doesn't make the second switch. Sohan then actually back cuts the guy or picks the guy who's supposed to be available. They rotate to the corner. This is actually an action the Jazz run. The reason I played it today is to keep an eye out for it. The Jazz run it off ball. They run it quickly in ball. They run three-guy interactions all the time. And it's pretty interesting. And that's where the teams in the league steal your plays. There's a team in the league that supposedly runs that play called Hardy, which is interesting. Jamal Murray was miserable in this game. Really, free throw miss, travel, another miss, missed a bunny. He wasn't very good. Devin Vassell was very good. And San Antonio was not guarding Bruce Brown, and he had to come off the floor, which is a problem because he was supposed to be important. Orlando versus Detroit. Orlando is so stationary. Doubles coming on Cade now all the time. Cade and Duncan two-man game on a clear side was interesting. So that's kind of where the go-to play right now for Detroit and JB Biggerstaff is Cade and Duncan two-man player on a clear side. And Cade Cunningham is really James Harden of Houston a few years ago. And they're playing him up at the top on a high pick and roll with Jalen Durant. And what they're doing is interesting is they then have guys at each corner, Tobias Harris and Amon Thompson, who aren't great shooters, and they have Duncan Robinson and the dunker under the basket. And then Robinson chooses which way he wants to go, and somebody comes and sets the pick. And Duncan comes out on the side. You have to switch it. And then simultaneously, Cade Cunningham's running a pick and roll with Jalen Duren. And so somebody has to switch out to Duncan Robinson out for the three. That's really their offense right now. It's pretty well done. And it's interesting to see them go after it. Magic win this game because with 1:03 left in the game, they bring the ball up the floor and they get 4 offensive rebounds and don't give the ball up for a full minute and win it. Franz Wagner's 3 looks jacked. Like, not good at all. I don't know what he did last night. I don't know if this was a one-night thing. It does not look like a comfortable shot. It did not go in particularly last year. It does not look like it's going to go in at all this year. He is very good driving to the basket, but he went 0 for 2 last night, 18 shot attempts from 3. So I think it's a little bit of a problem for Franz Wagner. Orlando is playing much better without Paulo Banchero. They are just so stationary offensively. And then Desmond Bane was playing with the ball in his hands so much. Now, Anthony Black is playing much better, and so is Jalen Suggs. And so they've gotten the ball out of Bane's hands, and they look a little bit better late in games when I've watched them earlier. All right, that is Late Game Watch. Hopefully you like that little tidbit. I would play Hardy. I will be in New York tomorrow. I think I'll get a show out, but I'm going day early with my wife. So if you want to follow me on X, it's DLock09 on Instagram as well and on TikTok. Please subscribe and follow the show if you like what you're getting. So you make sure you get tomorrow's episode as well. We'll talk about Ace Bailey and his passing. We will, at some point this week, talk about the league's massive problem we have. And at some point, we got to talk about our draft pick. We'll talk about it. It's out there. I'm not ignoring it. We'll talk about it. That's all coming up this week. Follow me on X, on DLock, or on any of the socials at DLock09. A big announcement coming Monday for all you everydayers. Hope you like it. Thank you very much for tuning in right now. We send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel, which is Locked On NBA on YouTube. If you're on audio, make sure you catch Locked On NBA Game Night every game, every night.